This is Star Wars The Clone Wars Clone Trooper Heavy in training armor. The figure is CW41 and it is part of the first wave of the 2011 Clone Wars figures. And let me show you the back of the packaging right there. Fantastic artwork. And here is the rest of the assortment in the wave. So very cool. And the figure is, yet again, another Galactic Battle Game figure, which means he has a base, die, and a Galactic Battle Game card. So anyway, it's a great figure, especially for those who've seen the episode. I'm a big fan of that episode where Hevy and the rest of his crew formed the Screw-Ups in the training academy of the Clone Troopers, and they, it shows a lot of values of like teamwork. That episode really had a lot of values that it depicted, and one thing you learn is that what makes a clone trooper tick by watching that episode. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, interesting figure. It is well detailed, I'll give you that. Fantastic detail, great paint apps on this figure, but it suffers a little bit on articulation. And as you can see, I think it's pretty obvious some of the articulation is missing. He doesn't have any ankle articulation. He's got ball hinge knees. He's got a swivel hip, only a swivel waist and not a ball jointed upper torso. He's got a it's supposed to be a ball jointed neck, but it only swivels. He's got a ball hinge shoulder and elbows and only a swivel wrist. So the lack of articulation vis-a-vis the fantastic detail, sculpt, and paint apps I'm sure will put some of you on the fence on this figure. But for me, this was one of the figures I wanted to get, primarily because it was it's relatively a new sculpt, because we've never seen a clone trooper training armor before. It's possible that some of the parts have been taken from some other figures, but I can't imagine which figures, because a lot of it's maybe the hands, but the head, ankles, but or feet. But most of it is really new, and I'm really liking this training armor. I wish they would make the rest of the squad, the rest of the figures. It doesn't have to be a single set. Could be like it could be a set. It doesn't have to be a single carded figure for each of the clone troopers that were with Hevy. It could be just like a set. Hopefully not an exclusive set, but. Yeah, very cool. And I liked Hevy. He was one of those. He just charged into battle and into the training room and just said, "Oh, let me get him. Let me at him." They should have called him Headstrong or Tantrum or whatever. So anyway, he comes armed with the Gatling gun, which has been painted very nicely. I wish it would have been a little bit lighter. They've done it in a little. It looks like it's a flesh tone. I wish it was a little bit lighter, like yellow or neon, but that's that. Maybe in this tone, but anyway. He also comes with a blaster, a DC-15 blaster pistol, and a missile, actually, for the Gatling gun, which, for me, I don't really need it. The Gatling gun looks great without the missile, but for those of you who want to reenact, you want to pit the figures against droids, maybe you want to hit droids with a missile, and it's fine. But for me, the Gatling gun stands fine on its own. His helmet is removable, and it's very well done. It's made of translucent plastic that's just been painted. And if it were the Marvel team that did this figure, I'm sure we'd get a lot of the quality issues on the helmet and on the gun. But since it's the Star Wars team, thank goodness, the manufacturing team that does Star Wars, Transformers, and G.I. Joes really did an awesome job with this figure. Now, having said that, I will have to advise collectors and give a little bit of caution. If you're looking for collector grade figures, you might want to pick through several heavy figures on the shelf if you can. You're going to have to look out for the black lines or the black paint that's been applied onto the translucent helmet. You're going to want to look at this part and the lines. Just make sure they're even, because I've seen some figures that are not as even, but it's still pretty good. That's one thing you got to look out for. Everything else on the body is fine except the forearms, whose green paint apps sometimes overlap, and as you can see on my figure, they're not as perfect as I wanted them to be, but they're still pretty good compared to a lot of the Marvel figures we've seen. So, lack of articulation, but the fantastic paint apps and sculpt do make up for that flaw. I would recommend this figure. Definitely, if you're a big fan of the Clone Wars, you like Season 3, you've got to get yourself a Hevy figure. Now, come on, he's just amazing. So anyway, there he is. If you can still see him on retail, I'm sure you can in your area, because out here in Manila, these things have already hit retail, and it's just February, and there's a lot more Clone Wars stuff to come out, and I'm really glad 2011 started right for the Clone Wars, and yeah, very good, very, very nice figure. There you go, Star Wars, the Clone Wars, Clone Trooper Hevy in training armor. I hope this video has been somewhat informative and somewhat helpful, insightful for those of you deciding on this figure. Thanks for watching.